The Ogaden region, a vast expanse of arid plains and scrubland, lies in the Horn of Africa. It is primarily inhabited by ethnic Somalis. However, the region has long been a point of contention between Somalia and Ethiopia. Ethiopia has controlled the Ogaden for centuries. This has created tension with neighboring Somalia. Somalia claims the Ogaden based on shared ethnicity with its population. After World War II, European colonial powers withdrew from the Horn of Africa. The Ogaden remained part of Ethiopia, much to Somalia's frustration. This fueled Somali irredentism, a desire to unite all Somali-speaking people under one flag. In 1969, Siad Barre came to power in Somalia through a military coup. Barre was a charismatic and ambitious leader. He harbored dreams of a greater Somalia. This vision included annexing the Ogaden from Ethiopia. Throughout the 1970s, tensions escalated. Both sides engaged in proxy conflicts, supporting rebel groups within each other's territories. The situation was ripe for a larger confrontation. This was especially true after Ethiopia experienced a period of internal upheaval. Emperor Haile Selassie was overthrown in 1974. The country descended into political chaos. A Marxist military junta, known as the Derg, seized power. This instability presented Somalia with an opportunity. Barre saw Ethiopia's weakness as a chance to seize the Ogaden. In July 1977, Somalia launched a full-scale invasion of the Ogaden. The Somali National Army, well equipped with Soviet weaponry, made rapid gains against the weakened Ethiopian forces. The SNA was highly motivated. They believed they were fighting for the liberation of their Somali king. They quickly captured key towns and strategic locations. Within weeks, Somalia controlled nearly 90% of the Ogaden region. The Ethiopian army, still reeling from the revolution and facing internal dissent, seemed on the verge of collapse. The Derg's grip on power appeared tenuous. The fall of the strategically important city of Harar in August 1977 sent shockwaves through the region. The initial Somali success was stunning. The speed and scale of their advance caught many by surprise. The Ethiopian government, desperate to turn the tide, appealed for international assistance. The stage was set for a Cold War confrontation as the superpowers were drawn into the conflict. The Ogaden War became entangled in the complex web of Cold War rivalries. Initially, both Somalia and Ethiopia had been recipients of Soviet military aid. However, the Soviet Union faced a dilemma. Supporting both sides in a conflict was untenable. They had to choose. The Kremlin ultimately decided to switch its allegiance to Ethiopia. This decision, later dubbed the Soviet Switch, was a pivotal moment in the war. Several factors influenced this strategic shift. Firstly, Ethiopia, under the Marxist Derg regime, held greater strategic significance for the Soviet Union. Ethiopia offered access to the Red Sea, a vital waterway. The Soviets saw Ethiopia as a potential socialist ally in a strategically important region. Secondly, Somalia's close ties to the Arab world, particularly after the 1973 Arab-Israeli War, raised concerns in Moscow. The Soviets feared alienating their Arab allies. Thirdly, the Soviet Union may have calculated that supporting the seemingly weaker side, Ethiopia, would yield greater influence in the long run. By propping up the Derg regime, the Soviets could secure a loyal ally in the Horn of Africa. The Soviet switch had a profound impact on the course of the war. The USSR began supplying the Ethiopian army with massive amounts of weaponry. This included tanks, fighter jets, and other advanced military equipment. This influx of arms would prove crucial in bolstering Ethiopia's defenses. Section 4. Castro's comrades, Cuba, enters the fray. The Soviet Union was not alone in coming to Ethiopia's aid. Cuba, under the leadership of Fidel Castro, also played a decisive role in the Ogaden War. Castro, a staunch supporter of socialist revolutions, viewed the Ethiopian conflict as a battle against imperialism. In late 1977, Cuba dispatched thousands of combat troops to Ethiopia. These troops, under the command of General Arnaldo Ochoa, were highly experienced. They had fought in various conflicts in Africa. Their arrival significantly bolstered the Ethiopian army's fighting capacity. Cuban forces were instrumental in training and advising Ethiopian soldiers. They also played a critical role in key battles. Cuban tank divisions fighting alongside Ethiopian troops proved to be a formidable force against the Somali army. The Cuban intervention was not without controversy. Some criticized Castro for intervening in a foreign conflict. However, Cuba's involvement underscored the global reach of the Cold War. It demonstrated the willingness of socialist nations to support each other militarily. Section 5. Turning the tide: Ethiopia's counteroffensive and victory. With the Soviet Union and Cuba providing crucial support, Ethiopia launched a major counteroffensive in early 1978. The Ethiopian army, now reinforced and better equipped, began to push back against the Somali forces. The Battle of Harar, fought in January 1978, marked a turning point in the war. Ethiopian and Cuban forces inflicted heavy losses on the Somali army, forcing them to retreat. The Battle of Jijiga, which took place in March 1978, was another decisive victory for Ethiopia.
In Ethiopia,
Cuban tank
the emperor
divisions,
had been
supported by
ousted and
Soviet
replaced by
airstrikes,
Marxists.
routed the Somali army, recapturing the strategically important city. By the end of March 1978, Ethiopia had regained control of the Ogaden region, effectively ending the war in their favor. The Somali army, demoralized and outmatched, withdrew back across its border. The dream of a greater Somalia lay in ruins. The Ogaden War had come to an end, but its consequences would continue to shape the Horn of Africa for decades to come.